this podcast, we talk a lot about different ways to learn, but the one we seem to focus on the most, the one that I keep bringing up almost every single podcast, is the lessons learned from adversity. But in today's podcast, I actually want to talk about something completely different. See you on the inside.
Welcome.
Attention, please.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome to the No Comfort Zone podcast. It's time to get out of your comfort zone and live on purpose. Broadcasting to the world from Rockford, Illinois. This is your wake-up call.
Warning.
You are the solutions to all your problems. Stop thinking average. Become the hero version of yourself. Every day, every time, without fail, no exceptions. It all matters. You've entered the No Comfort Zone. It's time for a reality check.
In yesterday's podcast, I talked about it's time to level up. And one of the best ways that I know to level up for me personally is to look at all of the different adversity that I've had at certain points in my life and try to figure out, try to deconstruct, why did that adversity happen? What did I need at that moment to make that decision, to get that action? Was it immediate gratification? Was it taking a shortcut? Was it my ego, pride, whatever it might be? You know, I'm better than, I'm not good enough. Whatever reason I made that choice, I deconstructed it and I realized that a lot of adversity that I've had in my life is actually self-inflicted. But, you know, as I'm listening to going back through old podcasts, and I actually was referencing some of these with a guest that we were speaking about, the No Comfort Zone podcast and its direction. You know, the one thing I want to make really clear, and I was kind of surprised. I was surprised that I don't talk about this enough. And in today's podcast, I want to bring up, instead of just the adversity that you learn from, because adversity on its own, it's really just sucks. But if you can look at that moment, that pit, when the adversity, you know, what you're dealing with now, the situation that you're in, and if you really deconstruct it and go back to, all right, what happened right before I'm in this really bad spot? Okay, what happened before that? What happened before that? Oh, why did I do that? You know, you could talk about, gosh, what are some of the things that people talk about? A big one is like feeling depressed. Like that's, you know, I'm just depressed. You know, I feel like I don't make a contribution anymore. I'm overlooked in my own household. These are men that I'm talking about. Overlooked in my own household. And I look at that and I know exactly, I've been there. I know exactly how that can feel. You work so hard, you do everything for everybody. Then you get to a point and you're like, you know, man, nobody appreciates me. The fact of the matter is this, is you just have to realize that the opinions of other people, it just doesn't matter. In this life, it's not really about that anymore. But what happened for you to get to that point? What happened for you to feel that way? You know, a guy ends up, you know, going after his business goals and he ends up, his family suffers. A guy ends up, you know, hey, I'm working a lot, and he decides that I'm not going to go home for dinner or go home and meet my spouse. I'm going to go hang out with the guys and talk about my woes in business. Well, that's where he's putting his attention at, and something else is going to suffer. The No Comfort Zone's really all about figuring out that adversity, but more importantly, you got to switch gears a little bit, and what are you good at? What are you really good at? You know, there's what's your superpower? And what I'm trying to do to develop this blueprint, when I develop the blueprint, what I'm trying to do is introduce it to people so that they can learn from the adversity, so they can enhance their superpowers. And I never talk about that. You know, you might be a great critical thinker. There's somebody that I work with that can just stop, take the emotion out of it, look at it from multiple angles quickly, and come up with a solution. And I'm fascinated how quickly this person can come up with emotionally sound, logical responses to emotional situations. Very good at that, actually exceptional at that. There's another guy that I know that he actually can solve problems through confrontation. That's a whole nother podcast. But when people come around, they're like, oh yeah, I guess you were right. And this person maybe does it with a little bit too much shock and awe for me, but he's great at it. And I think about that, and what are some of the things that you're good at? Case in my point is I'm a really empathetic person. I know that. No one has to tell me that I'm an empathetic person. There's some commercials that I've actually watched the commercial and I'm like, wow, I'm really touched by that. The cinematography and the message in that commercial. The way I said this before in podcasts before. I can appreciate the emotional wound that's going on in this commercial. I appreciate the advertisers putting the salt in that wound and then what they're trying to sell, the product or the Band-Aid that goes over the wound to heal it all. And I'm like, wow, I just get so caught up in that moment, especially when there's people involved. And, coming up on this time of year, right around Thanksgiving, you got to ask yourself, what are you grateful for? What are the things in your life? It's not all adversity, folks. What are the things that you're most grateful for? There's a get to, got to scenario that I talk about quite a bit too. I get to do this. I get to do this podcast. Sometimes I don't have the energy to do it, but I got to, what am I trying to do? What's my mission in life? What's my purpose? I want to help people learn from their adversity so they can have a better life. I want people to get out of that rut and realize that if you just take one or two steps outside of your comfort zone, your life is going to be amazing, as it was for me, as it is for me. My purpose in life is to help that person that's just hanging on. That you know what? I don't know, man. I don't know about tomorrow, man. I don't feel good about tomorrow. I don't know where this is going to bring me, but I'm going to hang in there one more day. And that's my hope to do this. Whether it's through me and the blueprint, whether it's through, other people that I can connect you with, this doesn't cost you anything to do. You've already paid the price is the way I look at it. And I get what's the right way to say that? I have a lot of gratification in helping somebody realize that, okay, that minute and moment in my life that I made that stupid mistake, that self-inflicted shortcut that caused me massive problems, because that's the story of my life. I appreciate the fact that there was a lesson there. And now I'm going to use that as a foundation, as a platform for the future me and who I'm really supposed to be. Because there's greatness within you. You have to know that. Even if you're a total screw-up, you're not a total screw-up. I always say this too, you're always worthy and you're worthwhile. The holidays is a tough time for some people. There's a lot of loneliness out there. I know, because I was there. I was extremely lonely during the holidays. And again, it was self-inflicted. It's sometimes you just got to realize you got to get yourself out there. You got to put yourself out there and realize that God gave you great gifts that, quite frankly, if you use them or acknowledge them, it's going to put you in a better place. You might be a really funny person. You might be able to make people laugh, or better yet, you maybe you're the person that used to make people laugh. God, come to think of it, I remember a long time ago, and for all my Marine buddies that might listen to this podcast, back in Virginia, right, just outside of Quantico, a social event that we went to. It was a kegger. We were going to go drink a bunch of beer with some of the guys that I was in the barracks with. They knew some local civilian girls, and a great group of people. We had a lot of fun together, and I was brought in, and it's funny, for the first 2 weeks I was there at Quantico, I think I was in a state of depression. I was overwhelmed with the move going from Japan to Quantico, and I ended up going to work, and right after work I'd go eat, because they feed you on the Marine base, and then at a certain time, and then when I was done I would go to my room and I would fall asleep until the next day. I did that for 2 weeks. I was completely and utterly alone, and it was by choice. It was by fear. I didn't know anybody. I was really solo, and I was starting to question a lot. Was this the right move? I had a choice to go somewhere else, and I chose to go to Quantico. Man, this is going to be tough. And then about 2 weeks later, a group of guys who I've just recently been in connection with within the past couple of weeks since the Marine's birthday on November 10th. But so you see a lot of chatter on Facebook. So I'm reconnecting with some people, and I realized that, these guys took me in. They brought me into the social circle. I got a chance to meet a lot of civilians, and it was really a fun time after work where I got to meet these people. A lot of partying, a lot of good times, just good times, early 20s, and not a lot of bad things in my life going on at the time, just having fun. At one of this kegger that we went to, I ended up getting on top of the picnic table, and if you were there that day, thank you very much for the support. But I think I did some stand-up comedy, believe it or not, for about I want to say it had to be about 2 hours. And the backyard was filled with people. I mean, people were everywhere. And all I did was make fun of people when they came in a good way, in a fun, stupid way. But it was a ton of fun. And there was people that would see me months later that I can remember and just start laughing when they saw me. They're like, "You're such a goof. You were so much fun." The energy level, that's one thing that I had. My sense of humor, my outgoingness at some points, and also my super extremely high energy level. It was contagious back then. Later in life, I think it would become a detriment, or I used it the wrong way, and it got me in a lot of trouble. And my need to have attention really started at that moment. It really got to that point where, you know what, this took away a lot of the pain I was dealing with. Although it was a good time in my life, I was really good at making people laugh back then. I was considered funny. Now today, I'm not funny at all. I have seriously zero humor whatsoever. I don't know why that is. I like dad jokes, so that'll put it in perspective. But I used to be. Now, we could use the blueprint and figure out, well, why was I and why aren't I now? And if it's something I want to be. I'm okay. I'm good where I'm at. I think I have a healthy sense of humor. My point being is that maybe there was a way that you were back then that was a positive thing, that was good for the people around you. And maybe somewhere along the way, maybe you lost it. And my point to you is that if you've lost it along the way and you want it back, focus on it. Put your attention, AIDA, awareness. How did you get where you're at? Who are you today? Look in the mirror and go through it. Identify what exactly happened in your life for you to get to a point where, you don't have this great quality anymore, or you kind of put it off to the side. I'll tell you what, some of it's actually just trying to take care of everybody else, and you neglect yourself. You might have been physically fit 20 years ago. I'm still fighting that one. 30 years ago, I'm still fighting that one. As a matter of fact, I was really physically fit 10 years ago. And through time, I gotten out of shape, back in shape, out of shape. It's a cycle. But you got to continually work on it. That's the best part about the blueprint, always evolves. It is, you're supposed to make yourself better. The way I see it is I'm sometimes going 2 steps forward and I take a step back. Wouldn't it be great to take 5 steps? But you got to take 1 step at a time, right? I think that's the case. There's no running in this whole thing. And when you get to a point and you start to actually have some satisfaction and some accomplishment in your life, you kind of look at that and realize that's the foundation. You're winning. You're living an accomplishment. And you got to appreciate those small moments, not just the adversity. What's the win that you can have today? Ask yourself that question. You're good. You're a good person. You're worthy and you're worthwhile. You've got big goals. You got big dreams. Maybe you're dealing with some self-doubt. Realize, what are you good at? What were you good at? What do you want to be good at? And figure it out. Knowledge, attitude, skills, and habits. We can work on that. Listen, a couple things, and while I close this podcast up, do me a favor. If you like this podcast, hook me up with a very solid 5-star rating, a great review, and let me know if it's impacted you. I really appreciate it. Got a lot of listeners, but I'm looking for a lot more. I'm trying to help people. There's a cool person out there who's having a problem. Your review just might help that person to say, you know what, I'm gonna hook up with this guy's podcast. I'm gonna start listening to it. I'm gonna start to apply the principles of the No Comfort Zone because I want to live on purpose. You might just help someone. So do me a favor if you could do that. And also you, the listener, if you want to go through a No Comfort Zone, if you're interested in reaching more, and getting the most out of life, do yourself a favor. Hit me up, Dan at thenocomfortzone.com, Dan at thenocomfortzone.com, and hit me up and let me know what you're trying to accomplish. And I'll send you the blueprint and communicate with you on how to achieve those things in life that you're looking for. Hey, it's been great talking to you today. I hope you have a great day. Thanksgiving is right around the corner here in the U.S. Do yourself a favor. Find something to be grateful for. But remember, you got to be grateful with who you are as a person. Appreciate who you are, all your flaws and everything else. Today is the day for you to start living your life, and you do that by getting out of your comfort zone and living on purpose.
Say goodbye.
Want more of the No Comfort Zone? You can follow Dan on Instagram and Twitter at NoComfortZone1.
Bye.
Or on the web at thenocomfortzone.com.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the No Comfort Zone podcast.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.